Hey folks, Joseph Kursky here. While we're waiting, I have a geographic quiz for you. Okay, think of interstate highways and state capitals. Think of the lower 48 states. Which state capital is the farthest from an interstate highway? Ooh, that's a tough one. It's only because you're the top-notch NCGIS community. Which state capital is the farthest from an interstate highway? Obviously, it's not Raleigh. That's a toughie. Anybody got that one? Anybody? Augusta. Well, I-95 goes through there, though, so good hypothesis. I-25 goes through Santa Fe. Well, pretty close to Santa Fe. It's about 2 miles from the state capital. The lower 48, though, yes. Hawaii does have interstates, which is odd, but you're on the right track. My guess, in full disclosure, was the second place answer. And this is a question from Mike Goodchild, who, as many of you know, is one of the founding members of the whole GIS movement. I got the second place answer. Pierce, South Dakota is 39 miles from I-90. That is not in first place. The first place answer is Dover. It's 41 miles from I-95. Bizarre, isn't that? I never would have thought an East Coast state. But there you go. You're thinking spatially, and that's what we do here, right? Right, Dan? Cool. All right, folks. Greetings. Joseph Kursky here at your service. We're going to delve into some of the field tools that you have at your fingertips and why you could use one over another. Let me just say in full disclosure that, again, it's a great honor to be with you all. As you know from yesterday, for those of you that were at the lunchtime presentation, I'm on the education team at Esri. So again, nudging you forward, thinking about, hey, I've got a school, I've got a university that I want to be contacting or reaching out to. Remember, there's an actual physical education team. We're not just a bunch of bots on a web page saying, hey, may I help you? You've all seen those kind of web pages, right? We're actually real people working in tandem and in partnership with you to promote spatial thinking throughout education, and also informal education. I didn't have time to talk about that, but we work with Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, 4-H, after-school clubs, and so on. So it's really the gamut of education. Again, we can't do it alone. We're all in this together, right, folks? High School Musical. Okay, the point is, let me just say this as we get rolling. I am all about using the most appropriate tool for the job, no matter what kind of software you're using. So there are good things about all of these tools that we're going to talk about today, and there's no one right answer for this is the best tool for every single job. Just as a way of introduction, for those of you that weren't around yesterday at noon, I would serve on the Esri education team, and again, happy to be invited here this week. I've had a grand time meeting you and hearing about your successes, your challenges, and really, folks, I wish you all the best success going forward. Let's keep in touch, though, okay, after this presentation. The program that I'm in is the education program. Again, it's primary, secondary, university, technical, tribal, community colleges. I also have some colleagues here at the conference that you probably know even better than you know me, Jay Fowler and Daniel Peters and other good people. They're basically working very closely with state and local government, nonprofits, private industry, business partners, et cetera. So you probably know them, and if you don't, go over and see them. I think the exhibits are open till, 11:30 or something like that. So, but field operations, this is our goals for the session here. Understanding the capabilities of the three main Esri mobile field data collection tools. We're going to talk about how do you determine what the best tool is for the job, and also gain some confidence using these tools. Ideally, this workshop we would have a field component, but since we only have 30 minutes, I had to shelve that part of the plan. But that would be the ideal situation, right? But that's okay, because you can how many of you are using field maps, Esri field maps? Oh, wow, okay. What about Survey123? Oh, wow. This is it brings geo tears. Let me just have a moment. What about this? QuickCaptu. Anybody using QuickCaptu? A couple folks. Excellent. All right, those are the three main ones we're going to talk about today. Maybe we might have some time to talk about, I've got some other field tools. How can I integrate those in? We might have some time to talk about that as well. So let's just do that. Hang on, let me do this. Okay. Let's talk about this. What about why use field tools in the first place? Pretty obvious to us in the geospatial community, right? But we want to be able to collect data. We want to be able to also be able to conduct surveys to the community, perhaps, about their attitudes, or crowdsource some, oh, I've got to collect X kind of a feature, and I don't have the field staff to do that. Can I engage the community in doing that? Where's this? This is another geography quiz for you all. Where did I take this picture? That's not the North Carolina coast, is it? That's the only part of the state I've not been to. That's the first place most people think about when they think about North Carolina, right? Ooh, go to the coast. I've never actually been there, except for Wilmington. So maybe you can invite me back and I can head that way. Because I'm mostly on university campuses and schools. This is the 12 Apostles Rocks in Victoria, Australia. Good on you, mates. Yeah, beautiful. Look at that cream color, that caramel colored sedimentary. Oh, that's a beautiful thing. The web GIS paradigm, that's what we're going to be anchored in today. I think you know about this, but just as a way of kind of framing our discussion for today, Trip Corbin did a noble job in the last session talking about ArcGIS Pro and its capabilities. That is, I think, what most people use on a daily basis. Although, I would say this, ArcGIS Online has some new capabilities in the new map viewer. Well, new from 2019, the one that's based on the JavaScript 4.x, including analysis tools now. You can do analysis in ArcGIS Online. There's about 21 of the 29 analysis tools that were in the classic map viewer, now migrated just 3 weeks ago into the new map viewer. Yay! Also, in the new map viewer, the 2019 default map viewer for probably all of you, is the ability to geo-register an historical photo, a satellite image, a historical map of your community. It's not probably as rigorous as many of you would like in terms of like survey grade. It's not sub-centimeter accuracy. But for many people, I want to be able to go click, 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 click. I'm going to do 8 clicks, and I want to have my unregistered image in my geographic coordinate space. Now you can do that in ArcGIS Online. That's really great. People were always calling me saying, Joseph, I could do that in Google Earth for years. Why can't we do that in ArcGIS Online? So now you can do that. And the third thing that I wanted to point out about ArcGIS Online is now you have the capability of custom symbols. So if you're mapping, I don't know, dog kennels or something, you can put a little dog symbol, et cetera, okay? So that's a nice, sometimes it's the little things that get us excited about this, right? So, and some of you are using ArcGIS Enterprise, I realize. And the apps, when you think about it, most of the things that you and I are using are actually apps. I mean, think about Microsoft 365. Word is an app, right, in the 365 cloud. PowerPoint is an app, etc. And these apps have really opened the door, as I indicated yesterday around lunchtime, of what you and I are passionate about to the wider community. It's really an amazing world that we're living in, where you've got colleagues that never touched GIS are now touching GIS in large part because of the data as services and because of these apps. And we're going to be focused on, in the next short while that we have together, on these things that I have in this rectangle, okay? There are other there's another field app, Drone to Map, for those of you that are using UAV data. There's also a cloud-based drone tool called SiteScan that maybe some of you are using. And there's also all these what I call office apps as well. Probably a lot of you are using dashboards and some of these other things. The thing that comes to mind on the top row, again, thinking about you geo-evangelizing to your colleagues, is ArcGIS Insights. It's sort of like Tableau meets GIS. It's not very much used, in my opinion. It's very much of a paradigm-shifting moment in GIS software, because what it is, it doesn't really have a traditional menu. How many of you have used ArcGIS Insights? See what I mean? There's not very many people that use it. But it's, again, for your colleagues that, I don't have time to get into this whole geospatial thing, there's not a menu per se. It's, I've got a map, and I'm going to drag it up to this graph pane. P-A-N-E, not P-A-I-N. I know we have painful moments in GIS sometimes, but you drag it over there, ooh, and now I've got choices. You drag this table over to this pane. Oh, I can do things now in this table. So there's not a traditional, go to the menu and choose tools. And that's exciting. How can you map field gathered data? There's other ways to do it besides the three tools that we're going to talk about today, but just as a kind of a refresher, here's another underutilized tool, which is why I put it in this slide. There's this photos with locations. If you don't want to use one of these three field tools, there is a way to grab a whole folder of photos and put it in ArcGIS Online, for example. And then you could also, of course, bring it down to Pro. But the point is, you've got a whole folder of photos of, just different kinds of invasive species, plants, noise levels, water quality measurements, whatever. You can drag those as a folder. And again, I mention it because not that many people actually know about it. There are some hidden gems, I think. You can get a GPX file, map that. You could obviously you can get a CSV. Probably all of you have done that a zillion times. There's other field apps too. I work with the large variety of nonprofit and educational associations, and they're using things like iNaturalist for citizen science, BioBlitz kinds of events where you collect every single species of plant and animal in your college campus or your community over the period of 24 hours, and a lot of times they use stuff like iNaturalist. Mapillary is a sort of a citizen science street view. You can collect your own street view, like a Google Street View, with iNaturalist or with Mapillary. And then also, the thing that we're talking about today, you can use these three tools that we're talking about right now. Let me just get to this. I love this quote. I just want to nudge people, again, probably not you, because you're already thinking this way, but your colleagues, when they go out and think about what they're going to collect, what questions are you going to ask? And therefore, what Survey123 questions are you going to ask? How are you going to configure your field maps, attributes, etc.? So spend some time thinking about that. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about field maps first. It's map-centric. It really is. It is the most rigorous of the three, in my opinion. You can do the versioning things that probably many of you do. You've got 50 people working on water, wastewater, and you've got to check in and check out data. All that kind of rigor is built into the field maps. Some of you may have heard terms or maybe have used collector in the past. The collector and a couple of other things were rolled into field maps maybe 3 years ago in 2020. Survey123 came about during a different health crisis than the one we've experienced in the last few years. It came about actually through the Ebola crisis in 2014, where the WHO, the World Health Organization, and a couple of other organizations were saying, hey, we've got some folks that want to collect data, for example, in Liberia. They're not GIS people, but they want to collect data, and they want to do it in a quick form. They don't want a map. They don't understand or they don't have the technical expertise that maybe some other people in the GIS community there had. So Survey123 came about because they needed something rapidly and they wanted it form-based. And ever since then, it's taken off. And I use it a lot in education. You probably, many of you raised your hand, you're using it in your own workspaces too. QuickCaptu's a bit newer, maybe 2020, but it was designed originally to gather data while you're moving, like in a motorcycle or a skateboard or a truck. Hey, this building's burned, this is not burned, and you're the only person in there, and you want to have a big button app that you're clicking on saying burned, not burned, etc., as you're driving along as an emergency vehicle, or for example. So each of these apps do these four things. They all capture location. They all create points, lines, and polygons. For a while, Survey123 only collected points, but now it collects lines and polygons. I don't think it does it as well as field maps, to be honest. So again, things to think about. If you're doing lines and polygons, really field maps is the best, although you can do it in Survey123. Survey123 is really ideal for points. And they all have the ability to add photographs, as you can see, and they all work online or offline. So the online or offline, I think field maps and Survey123 do a better job than QuickCaptu does for offline, to be honest. And like I said at the beginning, folks, if it serves your purpose, it is the best app for your needs. Choose the most appropriate one for your goals, whether instructional or workflow. Field Maps, as I mentioned, is a map-centric field data collection tool. You can create data, you can collect data, you can have versioning with multiple people out in the field, you can share the location, and you can analyze the results. There is an app, right, on your mobile device that you can actually download. Same thing with the other two. Although with Survey123, you can actually collect with just the web form. You don't actually have to have your end user needing to have any sort of app. It looks almost as good on the web as it does with the app, to be honest. Survey123, form-centric, as I mentioned. Let me show you an example of Survey123. I've got this walkability study. As a geographer, I'm curious about a lot of things, like I know you folks are. And so here's my story map of walkability. Would you consider any of these places walkable or not? This is probably the most famous intersection in the world, right? Where's this? Abbey Road. It's not very walkable, actually. For those of you that have been there, there's no traffic light there, so you have to have a loved one saying, hey, stop, my friend wants to take a photo. So what is walkability? Why do communities care about it? But inside my walkability story map, I have a Survey123. There's two ways to configure Survey123. One is with a Excel schema. We don't just dump you into Excel and expect you to figure out what things to fill out. We actually give you a set of tools in Excel. Another way to create these forms in Survey123 is with a drag and drop web interface. So that's actually the easiest way of all to configure any of these field tools, in my opinion, is the drag and drop with Survey123. But you can see here, this literally took me 30 minutes, right? I've got 5 questions in here about, is this walkable or not? Can you rate the walkability? Do you have a photograph of it? And then underneath that, the nice thing is that immediately it feeds my web map, right, of all my points, including a bunch in North Carolina. Ooh, cool. That I and other people have filled out, indicating the walkability of that location. Nice. Okay, so underneath that, I have a dashboard. With you've seen the Johns Hopkins University dashboard, right? The Johns Hopkins COVID dashboard. Everybody has seen that with a device. This has a feed from my Survey123. The only thing that's feeding this dashboard is my survey that I and others have filled out. And you can see here, I'm doing some sort of intermediate dashboardy things. I've got some sorts in there, as you can see, in reverse orders, probably small text for the back of the room there. But there are some basic things too, a pie chart, an indicator, of course the web map, a legend, and a couple of other things. But the survey, the story map, the dashboard, and the web map itself, all of those things took me hours, not days, weeks, months, but hours. And that's, I think, one of the advantages of Survey123 combined with these other tools. Okay, so let's continue on because we're always crunched for time on these things, right? We always have a lot to say and not very much time to do it. But the workflow is, the reason why it's called Survey123 is ask questions, get answers, and make decisions. Okay, so that's the 1, 2, 3 part. It does have, just like other tools that you've used in the ArcGIS suite and probably non-ESRI tools as well, you've got a zone. Like when you make story maps, you've got a My Stories zone. If you make dashboards, you've got a My Dashboard zone. If you make surveys, you get here's all my surveys that I've created. So that's nice, being able to go back in there and edit your surveys. And you can manage them as you probably would assume that's correct. You've got some reporting tools, some metrics, not a lot. I mean, it's not like Qualtrics, but it gives you a decent number of measurements. QuickCaptu, as I mentioned, it gives you this kind of a feel where you've got large buttons that are easily configured but also easily collected in the field. It doesn't have to be with a moving vehicle, but that is really what it was designed to do. Critical considerations. Okay, so you don't have a network connection. All 3 of these, no problem there. Although I do believe that field maps is the easiest there. Do you need an app? QuickCaptu and field maps need the app. Again, Survey123, you don't need the app. Do you need to sign in? Again, Survey123, you don't need to actually sign into anything to use it. It's like sign into your ArcGIS Online organizational account. They all work with advanced tools, like if you folks want to use Bad Elf or some sort of Trimble device or something to get more spatial accuracy out in the field, they all connect to other devices, so that's good. let me skip down to this one. This is really the heart of the presentation, and I'm going to put this online actually after the workshop here, so you can see this table. I know it probably violates all rules of showing data in a slide, but it's my one-stop. Let's just do this, so you can have a kind of a look at it. Okay, so gosh, lots here, but just in ever so briefly, you can see that they all have capabilities, but there are advantages to each one of these. Again, I think that if you want something quick and easy, field maps is not the quick and easy. It's Survey123. I think QuickCaptu falls in between there, but it's a little bit easier, toward the easier end. But field maps does give you more capabilities. So it's sort of like, whether you use, I don't know, UrfanView for your photo editing. It does one-touch photo editing. If you want, more capability, then you're going to use probably Photoshop. Same thing here. It's the same kind of analogy. So I hope that's helpful. There are certainly, as you would expect, more than I'm showing in that table. Every one of those tools obviously has a lot of documentation, tutorials, videos for you to learn how to use them in a deeper, richer way than maybe you're doing right now. But I really like this quote too about, hey, it's kind of related to the Einstein quote. Let's communicate. That's what these tools are really all about, right, folks, is communicating our results to others, stakeholders, our CEOs, our county commissioners, et cetera. And then, kind of like what I was nudging yesterday, okay, so you collect the data and you make web maps and you do some spatial analysis on the resulting data. Now you've got the capability of sharing that, right, with a wider community. So don't forget about the analysis of your data, and don't forget about the ways to communicate. I love the ability to create these instant apps. I think that's another thing that's a bit underused in the community, is these instant apps. So you're in ArcGIS online and you say, I want to create an exhibit app or a sidecar app, or there's about 20 of them now. And if you want to dig deeper, that's another nice thing about the GIS tools, right, that we have at our fingertips. If you want to dig deeper and you don't want those easily configured instant apps, then you go into Experience Builder and customize. You know what I mean? So you've got a deeper dive there. Okay. Yeah, no worries. So, again, I've got a set of story maps on this. There are videos and tutorials. There's also a MOOC. How many of you have taken an ESRI MOOC or a Penn State MOOC? Nice. The massive open online courses. They are admittedly challenging for us in the professional community, right? Because it's a time commitment and you've got to kind of wall it off. Please don't, hold meetings during this time, because it's one of those things where if you're going to spend 2 or 3 hours a week in a MOOC, you really need to block it off. It's kind of like you writing an article or something like that, right? Or a report. You can't really dip a toe in there for 10 minutes and then dive out. It requires a bit of immersion. But the reason why I bring it up is that those MOOCs, one of them is developing web apps. Another one is on imagery. Another one's on cartography. So they're actually quite good. And the instructors are, I think, not only knowledgeable, but they're actually entertaining. The cartography MOOC with Ken Field. Ken is quite entertaining and quite knowledgeable, for those of you that know Dr. Field. There is a higher ed chat. I know most of you are not in the education space, but we actually conducted one on comparing these 3 tools. If you want to listen to that, it's about a 40-minute recording. It's on our higher ed monthly chat that we hold for universities and community and technical and tribal colleges. There's also a demystifying essay. How do you demystify some of these data collection apps from our folks at Esri Canada? Okay, so questions, comments, issues? Does anybody have any? Hi.
Is there any way to merge field maps and Survey123? Like, you can field maps collecting points, but then you have several questions attached. You don't necessarily want to input it into an attribute table. You want to use the form. Is there a way to merge
Yes. So you've got data that you've collected. I'm going to pull up this table again because I know I spent precious little time on that. So you've got your point that you've collected with field maps, and now you want to add something that you didn't know that you needed before, and you want to have a survey. Yeah, they're editable feature services. So you can modify them, sure. And Ismail Shivite, who is our Survey123 product manager, has some essays on exactly doing that. Yep. And we could chat more in the exhibit hall too. Hi. Sorry? The walkability, yes. Do a search on the web. It's a story map. So if you do a search on how walkable and then my last name, Kursky, you'll find it. Yep. Yeah, thanks for asking. I like that for a proof of concept because it's like you can do anything, right? With that same idea, and I've got a tutorial about how I built the story map, the survey, the web map, and the dashboard. Right? It could be trees, it could be water quality, historical homes. Yes. Hi.
What is the security issue that you might have with that Survey123 linking straight into the dashboard on your story map? So if I want to write a script and pull a screw up in the map and dashboard, I probably could. Do you have any? I think that could stop something like that.
Good question. We can chat with Jay and some of the folks in our exhibit about a deeper dive into that question. I will say that of all the surveys that I have online, and they're all public, I've never had anybody put anything inappropriate in them. That's a good reflection on humanity, but perhaps also because these things are, as you know, they've got a big, long, gnarly map ID on them, and they're difficult to find unless you know what the search term should be. The only time I'm also involved with GIS Day. GIS Day, woohoo! I know you folks are involved with that too. I had a big survey for GIS Day. Hey, what did you do for GIS Day? I had one person put a couple of photos in a certain place around the planet that had nothing to do with GIS Day. Fortunately, they weren't offensive or anything, but they had nothing to do with GIS Day. So that's the one time in all of the last 10 years that I've actually had something that wasn't, but still, it's a good thing to think about, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yep.
I'm asking you, is there a mechanism that you know of that would accommodate that?
The one mechanism I have used is to review the points that come into your survey before they go up on your web map that links to the survey. So there is a way to do that. You know what I mean? It's like you as the survey author get flagged, pinged, notified when every time a survey point comes in, and then you can review it before it actually goes into the live web map and or the dashboard. So that might help a little bit. Yeah, do you want to add to that, Keith?
Yeah, theoretically, you could set up a field and attribute it so that it needs to be yes in order to bring in the data to make it any of the widgets on the dashboard. So instead of having to okay every single one simultaneously, you could then have a review day each week where you look at all 100 before it even make it on your public-facing dashboard. There's one field, yes or no, that was completely locked. You can set it up so that if the dashboard is looking at a web map, looking at that layer, you could use a filter on there so that any data that even comes from that feature layer would make it into the dashboard and it's been verified.
That's a super good idea, Keith. And if someone didn't hear what Keith was just saying, come in and talk to Keith. That's a super idea. Okay, folks, I know that you've got things to do, and I really appreciate you being here. I'm happy to chat with you afterwards or else in the exhibit hall, and I wish you all the best. Map on.